in search of soil.
If we look at the Great Plains as they used to be, and I know there's, I think, some still small sections of like the original still intact with these deep, deep soils. And then we have cropland that has been treated conventionally for, let's say, 100 years. And it's what we'd classify as poor soil compared to that Great Plains soil. Can you walk kind of through a step by step process, not in terms of how, but in terms of as we change our management practices, what would happen to that poor soil on its way to becoming that deep Great Plains soil? What does that story look?
Well, yeah, I have to take you back to what we're seeing in the human microbiome. In one instance where they've done an experiment and they've removed fiber from the diet of mice to see what happens to their stomach microbiome, they have a decrease in diversity in that system. The more generations it goes through, you just get a decreased diversity all the way through. You would think, okay, we'll bring the fiber back, just bring the carbon back in your soil. But it doesn't restore that microbiome structure. It doesn't bring back diversity. The only way it brings it back is if you come in with an inoculation from a healthy microbiome. And we're seeing the same thing in humans, that if people suffer Crohn's disease, IBS, decades, some people die from it. Some people have resections of their intestines, more antibiotic regimes. And yet they find out that if you can bring the microbiome from a healthy individual, like in a fecal transplant, and put it in to the person with IBS or Crohn's, in many cases, they can be cured in 24 hours. And it seems to be that essential or important in these soils that we've broken, is to bring that biology back. We see it just with an inoculation of the compost in the bioreactor. We did research in a project in Wilcox, Arizona, where we came in with 2 pounds of compost per acre as an extract that we injected into the furrow at planting. In that research, what we saw is we compared a conventional approach with 256 pounds of nitrogen. We had an intermediate treatment with 15% of that, or 38 pounds of nitrogen in that 2 pounds of the compost. And then we had another treatment just with the compost, the 2 pounds per acre rate. What we saw is we matched productivity to the conventional with the beam or the compost plus 15% productivity, 15% nitrogen, that 218 bushels of corn. And this was quite unexpected because we replaced probably 180 pounds of nitrogen in that system just with biology. And in the compost only, we only suffered a 6.6% loss in productivity. So there was, again, about 140 to 150 pounds of nitrogen that we brought into that system just with the biology. So it's, from what we're seeing in this research, is that you need to be able to bring a healthy community back into this. And the compost process that my wife and I developed seems to give you a very robust and diverse microbial community. We see, as you allow it to mature, we see a 4 times increase in the diversity of the microbes. You'll see microbes that start out in the composting process, and at the end of that year, they're not dominant. Some of them aren't even present, but they've been replaced by a whole nother suite of microorganisms that have much more diversity and much more capability. So again, we're learning a lot on this. It's not all known. We're still at the very beginning, and scratching the surface, as I was saying earlier to you.
Is inoculation enough? Meaning, well, I mean, in the sense of there has to be food in that soil for the organisms you're putting into that soil to consume. So, and I know this is generalizing, but do you think that most soils, there's enough food there for microbes? if you add microbes, at least some will be able to proliferate, multiply, and establish themselves? Or do you need that inoculant plus food source for the inoculant at the same time?
It's, again, a system. And the microbes won't do it by themselves. This is not magic. They need a living plant at all times to have that carbon flow. It's kind of like banking. You know, you need a certain amount of money going into your savings account in order to build things up. But it's a system that we're trying to restore, and having a plant grow all the time, either a cover crop or a commodity crop, is essential to restoring the biology. You know, it won't happen without plants. It's that relationship that developed between the soil microbiome and the plants that make this planet what it is today.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out some of the great clips and watch the full interviews right here on In Search of Soil.